Welcome everyone, Marcelo is my name. Now the owner of Xerjoff, Sergio Momo, I'm gonna say he's a bit of a nerd. And I don't say this in a negative way because I too consider myself a bit of a nerd. If I had a kick-ass perfume brand, you know that I would be creating collections. A bottle on its own, very lonely. But to have 3 or 4 from the same family, forget about it. And then I would also pepper my brand with little Easter eggs here and there. This iconic Xerjoff lid, what does it mean? If you jump onto this production here, I share more, and it's actually a real Easter egg. It's linked in with something. The last part is that I would definitely 100% hang out with my heroes. People that I love, people that I enjoy what they've done, I would definitely collaborate with them. One thing I do know about Sergio is that he is actually a very talented musician. He loves all things music. During the 80s, he would have been in his mid-teens. So I asked Perplexity the question, what was the coolest and most popular bands in the 80s? Boom, here's the answer. So it made perfect sense that the next collaboration was with Duran Duran. I did a lot of research and a lot of reading in different publications. Did the guys just lend their name? Was it just a license deal? Or were they actually involved in the creation of these fragrances? I love reading that yes, they actually had a hand in all these elements, that they actually, obviously they're not perfumers, but they definitely wanted to capture a moment in time of their style, their band, and something that I guess took us all back to the 80s. Sergio challenged the band members to think of perfumery more than just florals. He even gave them the challenge to go smell paint drying. What does that smell like? Go into a nightclub and sense the sassiness that sometimes can exist there. So they actually had quite a hand in refining what these 2 fragrances are. They have a unique touch to each of them. Neo Rio. This is the one that I first encountered, and I'm a sucker for this kind of fragrance. So I fell in love very quickly. It was something that quickly ensnared me. Even then, what I like about this is that I do love gourmand, but I want it to be more than just vanilla. I do love oriental style. I like spices in my fragrance. I like fragrances that have presence but are not over the top, where one spray and all of a sudden it is going through walls. I want a fragrance that tempers itself better. So it has strength, but it can be subdued. It has these gourmand notes, but it's not overtly sickly and too edible in its profile. I want some spicy notes, but I don't want it to be over the top and become too intense where it's just these heavy resinous notes that are in the fragrance. Here I find that the balance is just wonderful. For those who are familiar with the channel know that I like to break up things into 3 stages. You know, the opening notes, or that opening of the fragrance, and then it's dry down, etc. Here, I find that I get 2 clear stages. I'm not saying that this is a linear fragrance. In fact, I get this opening of this boozy sweetness, which then sort of, it's like a long tail. This opening of this boozy sweetness seems to elongate itself, and it's part of the same profile, but it evolves and changes and moves. Unlike in some cases a fragrance that opens up nice and citrusy and then it moves on to florals and things of that nature, whereas here it starts off, I guess, like an explosion, boom, and then you have this slow elongation of these notes that are beginning to come through till the end. The magic all the way through is this beautiful maple syrup note. I love that the maple syrup element, I found out, is in the heart, creates a gourmand touch, a sweetness, but not lent in by a vanilla. The classic gourmand notes that are used within perfumery. That opening with the rum and that candied fig, and then lent in with that maple syrup. And then finally in the base are things like Peru balsam and also labdanum. Now, my heroes are perfumers. I've had the privilege of being in the company of a number of incredible creators. Pierre Guillaume, Luca Maffei, Mel Fruscione, to name a few. And the question that I always ask, can I smell certain ingredients from your lab? Because I want to understand what does this smell like and how do you use it to then translate into a fragrance? I've had the privilege of smelling both Peru balsam and labdanum. These are multifaceted notes. Sometimes you think that a note smells like bop, like a rose. It just smells a floral rose. But in fact, it has all these different elements to it. Labdanum is incredible. It's a perfume in and of itself. The moment you dab it, you're getting these dark fruits. Think of raisins and dark plums and things of that nature. And then as it migrates, it does become more floral-like. And I find that Neo Rio does that. So the phases are this beautiful boozy, seductive, intoxicating element, and then as it moves through, it retains some of those pieces, but then has this more spicy, the more resinous elements that are coming through as it begins to dry down. It always remains as a very inviting fragrance. It's a fragrance that you would use as a going out on a date night. It would be something that you would wear as a statement maker. When I first saw the neon brightness, I really was expecting a lot more citrus vibrance, you know, loud fruity notes. The fact that it's called Rio, I thought it was going to lean into like a tropical vibe. Instead, for me, I get more of a sophisticated bar. Think something that is low lit. Art Deco is everywhere, so this beautiful round and soft edges on the lighting, on the fixtures, low voices. There is a scent profile that is welcoming, that you can smell the booze or the little bit of the cocktails that are around the table, some whiskey, some rum. But then there's these sweeter notes that are also in the air. And I find that this is Neo Rio for me. It's not exuberant, it's not sunshine. If anything, it's a lot more seductive and sensual and close as a fragrance. Now there are 4 bottles, all with different colors. All 4 are the same fragrance. The advantage is you can now select the color that you like. I selected orange. Everybody knows orange is a strong masculine color, especially in this bright neon sort of tinge that it has. When it comes to the fragrance performance, I get a 12+ hours without a problem, and its sillage and projection is in a very confident moderate. Everyone around me is detecting the fragrance when I'm wearing it. Now, this beauty right here. So, not that I have a favorite between the two. What I have noticed is I tend to reach for Black Moonlight more often, and it's not a conscious decision necessarily. So, and I've been sort of trying to understand why exactly, being that I love both. As I said, when I first sprayed Neo Rio, instant fell in love. But if I'm going out, especially of an evening, and also the thing is here in Melbourne, it has been cold. And so when I'm going out or doing something that I need a fragrance for, I see this on the shelf and they're next to each other, but I take Black Moonlight as my fragrance for the day. I think what I love about this is that it does have much more clear parameters as it dries down from that opening and then as it moves through. And then I think the other part too is that when I'm wearing it, Sandra, my wife, is detecting this fragrance and is also complimenting me. She actually loves the dry down of the fragrance. It has a beautiful powdery, earthy nature to it. So let's spray. And unlike Neo Rio, which has has an instant love, has an instant hook, the sweet notes, the ambery nature, that rum, I'm going to say also that candied fig, even though I don't detect the fig so clearly, but the fruity nature of the fragrance quickly grabs you. Here, on the other hand, it's a little bit mysterious, and I think the name suits it really well. Black Moonlight. Things are not quite clear. The moon is out, but obviously it's clouded by, or it's shrouded by some sort of darkness, some clouds. So there's a little bit more mystery in the air. And this is what I get from here. When it opens, you get this wonderful boozy spice. Not as sweet and inviting as Neo Rio, but there is a boozy element to it. Then as it moves through, it goes to these dark florals, and I'm going to elaborate what I mean by that. Finally, when it settles down in the dry down, it does go to this wonderful ambery earth. You do get a grounding effect with the fragrance. There is a powdery nature also. Some of the elements of this fragrance, on that opening, the spiciness is supplied by this cardamom. But I feel like there's something else. There's like a cinnamon bark. It's not listed, but I do get like a much more zesty, spicy note coming through, but with woody elements to it. I also love, and it's beginning to go into the space here, the midpoint of the fragrance. I mentioned dark florals, and what I get is a very heavy, very dense, rich floral note. There's a beautiful fragrance, and it's right here actually, by Paris Monte Carlo, Ylang Ylang Nosy Bay. And as I was experiencing and preparing for today, I could see in my mind this bottle, and I'm like, it does have that Ylang Ylang richness. What has happened here in this particular fragrance is that they've taken the Ylang Ylang from the little island of Nosy Bay, which is near Madagascar. And the nuance there is that it has like a dark, chocolatey sort of earthiness to the actual scent profile. And on the midpoint, I know that there is Ylang Ylang in Black Moonlight. On the midpoint, I'm getting a very dense, dark, floral nature, similar to this one here. This is now deep in the dry down. This is for Paris Monte Carlo's Ylang Ylang Nosy Bay. And I'm getting that heavy, chocolatey, floral nature to the fragrance. And I'm getting a portion of that here. This has to go deeper. I've only just sprayed it probably about 20 minutes ago. I find that as it dries down even further, I am getting those dense florals that are there. Finally, when it dries down, it does go to this beautiful powdery place. And the way that I've defined it is like an earthy amber element to it. It has a mixture of these spicy notes, these ambery notes, but definitely with a beautiful powdery effect. I don't know how it's done, because normally I associate powdery notes to either iris or a violet. I don't believe it is or does exist in the fragrance. I know that it does have patchouli and has some of these other notes. It could be the myrrh. There's also myrrh in here. So I find that this fragrance here, Black Moonlight, has a lot more mystery, has a lot more movement, has a lot more intrigue, and something that, again, for me, is an instant grab. I mentioned earlier that Neo Rio is a very sophisticated bar, Art Deco, low light, soft voices. Black Moonlight is more going out at night. It's an urban landscape, but now I'm in Tokyo. I can see this neon lights. There is a darkness you can't see in the distance, but it's not highly lit. There's a super cool area in Tokyo called Kyobashi. This is now low lit. It's not like the classic, think of Shibuya with all the bright lights and all that. It's nothing like that. It's a lot more intimate and a lot more Black Moonlight. There are shadows that you can't quite see too far in the distance. The lighting is low, but there are some awesome restaurants in this location. Sandra and I spent quite a bit of time in this particular area, and this is what I get. I get this urban landscape, this mysterious place that I'm in, but it's something that is also comforting, it's calming, and it's super inviting. When it comes to the performance of this fragrance, fantastic, similar to its sibling. 12 plus hours without a problem, sillage projection in a very confident moderate. Whenever I'm wearing it, especially my wife, is definitely picking it up. All right, back to this. So what made Duran Duran the coolest band in the 80s? In 1982, MTV first launched. At that stage, music videos were very basic. Band, instruments, and they're singing their song. It wasn't until 1983 Duran Duran released Rio and reimagined what a music clip should look like. All of a sudden we have this lifestyle. We have these band members in a much more novel way, in a much more approachable way. Simon Le Bon on that sailboat singing Her Name is Rio as she dances across the sand. I'm telling you, we were all like sold. I gotta buy that CD. Well, there was no CDs. I gotta buy that single. And then there was that beautiful muse, that model, Rio, who moved around that video clip. Actually, the neon colors on her are the colors of the flacons that you can actually buy. That moment when that model turns to the camera and gives you that knowing smile, that wink, I tell you, and I know this boy here at that age, fell in love. We were like, I'm sold. Duran Duran, you are the coolest band around. Then they followed that up with Hungry Like a Wolf, and that was it. They cemented their place in history. These guys now were definitely the coolest thing of the 80s, so it made sense. Xerjoff would have been around 16 at the time. Now that he has his own kick-ass perfume brand, has said to these boys, come and join me. Let's collaborate together and let's create something memorable when it comes to a beautiful fragrance. And that's what's happened here. I'd love to hear what you think of these two beauties. Have you had a chance to test them? Do you prefer one over the other, or do you own both? Thanks, everyone. We'll look forward to seeing you all on the next episode.
Shine.